Share this with. Find out the details of the major sports coverage on offer across BBC television, radio and online this week. Visit our live guide for direct links to all our live sporting coverage, including text commentaries, while BBC Sport app. Users can also set event reminders so they never miss a moment of their favorite sports. All times GMT. Times are subject to change. The BBC is not responsible for any changes that may be made. For more details of forthcoming coverage, visit the specific sport page on the website. Coverage on BBC Red Button can be subject to late schedule changes. Listen to live commentary of Leeds v Hull FC in the Super League on BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra, plus Jenny Gow, Andrew Benson and former Renault driver Jolyon Palmer look ahead to the new Formula One season on 5 Live. 1900 hours to 2200 hours, Rugby League, Leeds Rhinos v Hull FC, Super League, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra 1930 to 2030, Rugby Union, Matt Dawson's Rugby Show, Six Nations Preview, BBC Radio 5 Live 2030 to 2130, Formula 1 to 2018 Season Preview, BBC Radio 5 Live 2130 to 2200 hours, Horse Racing, Cheltenham Festival Preview, BBC Radio 5 Live 2200 hours to 2230, Football, The Premier League Show, BBC 2, 2315 to 2345, BBC 2 Wales and Knee. Watch live basketball coverage from the WBBL and Beryl on the BBC Sport website. And listen to horse racing commentary from Sandown on BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra. 1300 hours to 1400 hours, The Friday Sports Panel. BBC Radio 5 Live 1400 hours to 1600 hours, Horse Racing, live commentary from Sandown, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra 1700 hours to 1900 hours. Basketball, Sheffield Hatters v Auckland Wolves, WBBL, Connected TV and online 1900 hours to 2130, Football, The Friday Football Social, BBC Radio 5 Live 1900 hours to 2130, Rugby Union, Scrum v Wales U20s v Italy U20s, U20s Six Nations, BBC Red Button, BBC 2 Wales and online 1900 hours to 2145, Rugby League, Warrington Wolves v St Helens, Super League, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra 1930 to 2130, Basketball, Sheffield Sharks v Cheshire Phoenix, Beryl, Connected TV and online 2145 to 630, Cricket, New Zealand v England, 5th One Day International. BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra Six Nations coverage continues across the BBC as Ireland hosts Scotland and France face England. Stream the Wheelchair Rugby Quad Nations Tournament on Connected TV and online, and listen to BBC Radio 5 live commentary of the Manchester United v Liverpool in the Premier League. 5 o'clock to 5:30, Boxing, 5 Live Boxing with Costello and Buns, BBC Radio 5 Live 5:30 to 6 o'clock, Fit and Fearless. BBC Radio 5 Live 12 o'clock to 1300 hours. Football, Football Focus, BBC 1 12:30 to 14:30, Football, Manchester United v Liverpool, Premier League, BBC Radio 5 Live, build up from 11 o'clock, 1400 hours to 16:15, Rugby Union, Ireland v Scotland, Six Nations, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra 1500 hours to 16:45, Football, Newcastle v Southampton, Premier League, BBC Radio 5 Live 1600 hours to 1900 hours, Rugby Union, France v England, Six Nations, BBC 1, Red Button 1855 to 1920, Connected TV 1600 hours to 1920, 1645 to 1900 hours, Rugby Union, France v England, Six Nations, BBC Radio 5 Live 1630 to 1730, Football, Final Score. BBC 2 1700 hours to 1900 hours, Rugby League, Catalan v Hull, BBC Radio Humberside 1900 hours to 2000 hours, Football, 606 phone-in, BBC Radio 5 Live 2220 to 2345, Football, Match of the Day, BBC 1 Wales take on Italy as the Six Nations coverage continues on the BBC, Arsenal host Watford in the Premier League on BBC Radio 5 Live. The British National Gymnastics Championships are live on Connected TV and online and the International Wheelchair Rugby competition concludes. 7:30 to 9 o'clock, Football, Match of the Day, repeat, BBC 1 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, Sports Week, BBC Radio 5 Live 12:15:13:00, Football, Match of the Day 2 Extra, BBC Two and BBC Radio 5 Live 1320 to 1755, Gymnastics, British National Championships, Connected TV and Online 1430 to 1705, Rugby Union, Wales v Italy, Six Nations, BBC One, Connected TV and Online, 1405 to 1700 hours, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra, Forum, 1705 to 1730, Connected TV and Online, 1330 to 1530, Football, Arsenal v Watford, Premier League, BBC Radio 5 Live, build up from 1300 hours, 1600 hours to 1800 hours, Football, Bournemouth v Tottenham, Premier League, BBC Radio 5 Live, build up from 1530, 1800 hours to 1930, Football, 606 phone-in, BBC Radio 5 Live 2235 to 2335, Football, Match of the Day 2, BBC One 2315 to 2345, Rugby Union, Women's Six Nations highlights, BBC Two Stoke City host league leaders Manchester City and Monday night's Premier League fixture, plus, sporting discussion and anecdotes from Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy on BBC Radio 5 Live. 1300 hours to 1330, Football, Women's Six Nations highlights, BBC Two, 1900 hours to 2100 hours, repeated on BBC Red Button, 1900 hours to 2000 hours, Football, The Monday Night Club, BBC Radio 5 Live 2000 hours to 2200 hours, Football, Stoke City v Manchester City, Premier League, BBC Radio 5 Live 2200 hours to 2230, Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy, BBC Radio 5 Live 025 to 110, Rugby League, The Super League Show, BBC One, North West, North East, and Cumbria, Yorks and Links and Yorkshire only. Horse racing commentary comes live from day one of the Cheltenham Festival. Plus Manchester United host Sevilla at Old Trafford in the Champions League across BBC Radio 5 Live and Sports Extra. 1300 hours to 1345, Rugby League, The Super League Show, BBC Two, repeated 1900 hours to 2150, BBC Red Button, 1300 hours to 1600 hours. Horse racing, Cheltenham Festival, Champion Day, BBC Radio 5 Live, 1600 hours to 1745, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra, 1945 to 2200 hours. Football, Manchester United v Sevilla, Champions League, BBC Radio 5 Live, build up from 1830, 2200 hours to 2230. Football, 5 Live Football Social, BBC Radio 5 Live live football coverage on BBC Radio 5 Live as Barcelona take on Chelsea in the Champions League. Also, catch all of the action from Ladies' Day at the Cheltenham Festival on BBC Radio 5 Live and Sports Extra. 9 o'clock to 2300 hours. Badminton, All England Championships, Connected TV and Online 1300 hours to 1600 hours. Horse racing, Cheltenham Festival, Ladies' Day, BBC Radio 5 Live, 1600 hours to 1745, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra, 1845 to 2100 hours. Football, Arsenal Women v Manchester City Women, Continental Tires Cup Final, BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra 1945 to 2200 hours. Football, Barcelona v Chelsea, Champions League, BBC Radio 5 Live, build up from 1830. You can view BBC Sport output as well as listen to our radio sports programming on the BBC iPlayer. The BBC Sport website is available via desktop, mobile, tablet and app, giving fast and easy access to the live stream, text commentaries, news, reports, schedules, videos, as well as highlights of the day's action. The BBC Sport app is available free on Apple and Android devices. National and regional variations have been included in this list where possible, but please check your local listings for more detailed information. Share this with